Hello everyone and welcome to the Top Gun Maverick 4K UHD Blu-ray review. As a preamble, I'm very happy to announce a partnership with the French brand Trinnov, which finally allow me to offer you concrete audio analysis on Dolby Atmos tracks. This brand, which manufactures exceptional audio equipment, offers with the Altitude 32 amplifier an audiophile analyzer which allows you to visualize sound objects in 3D. So like usual, first you will find the presentation, technical information, the content of this edition, the analysis and the conclusion. Top Gun Maverick is an American film by Joseph Kosinski, who directed Tron, Oblivion, Only the Brave and recently Spider-Head on Netflix. We can ask ourselves the question of the necessity of this sequel, we can reproach it for being very similar to the first opus, you can accuse it of too much fan service. Whatever the critics say, as far as I am concerned, no one will be able to spoil the unique feeling I had when I saw Tom Cruise again in the role that made him a superstar, and when I saw a show that I've never seen before. It's an absolutely crazy sound and visual experience, coupled with a little Madeleine de Proust. From the first minutes, they put you in the mood. This will remake the first film, but better. We will not be surprised, it's calibrated for the whole family, but whatever. It's old-fashioned blockbuster, but so brilliantly done and excessively generous that everything else is just detail. The means deployed to make this film were colossal. It was shot with Sony Cine Alta Venice cameras and Cine Alta Rialto version that allowed to be placed in the cockpit of the aircraft due to their small size. You can see here the device used to film the actors from all angles during the flight scenes. The actors triggered the camera themselves, because the keyword of the film was to shoot everything that could be shot without using digital effects. There are still more than 400 people credited on the film for the visual effects, so there are still some digitally enhanced shots. Indeed, for some shots, the actors were installed in two-seater aircraft with the pilot, who was then digitally erased. The director of photography, Claudio Miranda, and his team have developed several devices divided in 4 types of shots requiring a wide variety of spherical lenses. There were the main shots, the shots inside and outside the jets, the aerial shots, and the aerial shots from the ground. Indeed, for the flight scenes, the camera and the optics had to be as light and robust as possible in order to be able to absorb the force generated by the speed of the planes. The film was shot in 6K full format in 16 bits OCN ST format. Some scenes are in 190:1 for the IMAX presentation, and others in 231:1. Image format is changing during the film, allowing us to see more images at the top and bottom in the flight scenes. The digital intermediate was finalized in 4K. For the sound, the film was proposed in Dolby Digital Surround 7.1, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Digital, DTS:X, IMAX 6 tracks, Sonic's DDP, and finally 12 tracks digital sound. This edition contains the film in 4K UHD with, as mentioned, an image with several formats. The disc is in Dolby Vision and HDR10 and offers English and French track in Dolby Atmos. Note that the present version is the French edition and there might be difference with other regions. On the HD version, there is no French track in Atmos, only in English. We have soundtracks and subtitles that are missing from the 4K version. Concerning the extra, it's identical on both discs. There is a first module on the training that the actors had to prepare for the flight scenes, and a second one on the backstage of the shooting, where we can see the device used for capturing the shots. These featurettes contain interviews of the crew members. Even if it's fascinating, I don't hide the fact that given the size of this film, we would like to see more. Then there is a module about aviation, where Tom Cruise shares his passion with us. A module on the creation of the Stealth Darkstar plane, a module on Tom Cruise masterclass in Cannes, and finally, the video clip of Lady Gaga and One Republic from the soundtrack of the film. Note that the video quality of the menu is very low compared to the quality of the movie. Well, it's not a secret anymore, this disc is going to become a reference. When you take the best artists, namely Claudio Miranda for the image and Stefan Sonnenfeld for the grading, to mention only them, but believe me, there is also incredible teams behind, we obtain a result quite simply fabulous. Here is a representation of the video bitrate. The average bitrate measured is 60 megabits per second, with peak exceeding 100 megabits per second. The encoding seems to be perfect. There are a lot of gradient skies, and I didn't see any bending problems. The metadata specify a maximum light peak at 617 nits and an average of 496 nits. The film was graded in Dolby Vision workflow on a P3 monitor limited to 1000 nits. I made some measurements and we can see that the light levels are quite high, mostly with a small peak at 700 nits. The color space is also nicely exploited. The first thing that strikes when seeing these images is that the wall is very natural. Except perhaps some yellow tints a little prominent in some passage, it is of an incredible accuracy, neither too much nor not enough. The skin tones are beautiful, colors are fully highlighted in HDR, and what to say about luminosity. I will show you some examples to illustrate the difference between HDR and SDR version. So indeed, on the very bright scene, the comparison is without appeal. The loss of information in SDR is quite significant. It's obvious in the highlights and specular. The image gains in precision, but especially in volume and depth. This is sometimes hidden simply on the contour of the face, on the level of detail rising in the windows of cockpits, on reflections on the water, but also in the clouds. But the contribution of HDR is not limited to the highlights. Look at the color. Skin are so much more accurate and detailed. The landscape too, the greenery comes out in a more significant way. It's sometimes quite subtle. For example, on the better hold of the red, which draws less in this scene, on the stripes of the helmet, and even on this flag. Even on the impeccable blue of this scene. And what can I say about the saturation in the sky? Whether it's daylight or in darker scenes, the difference is really impressive. The level of details on the close-ups is also very high. It is important to note that all the film was shot with the same type of camera, so we do not feel any difference in definition between scenes with different aspect ratios. We have a feeling of sharpness and constant quality throughout all the film. It's for me the perfect illustration of the use of HDR. The overall tone is about the same as the SDR version, but we just have more information that gives us a greater sense of immersion. It's just coherent from one end to the other. I'm really happy to share with you this new section dedicated to sound. Here is the sound channel's visualization tool. The icons represent the use of the speakers and objects. About the color, black channels are not used, green channels are used at normal level, yellow is louder, orange is much louder, and red very loud. This is a 7.1.2 mix, with the use of 11 objects. There are 7 main channels, 2 dedicated to the ceiling, with 2 dynamic objects and a bass channel. If the immersion with the image is acquired, with this Atmos track, we are simply in the cockpit with Maverick. And for once, thank you to Paramount to have proposed us a Dolby Atmos French track. What a trip! It is absolutely fabulous to see how the sounds envelop us from the first notes of music. The mix was done by the Twickenham Film Studios team in collaboration with Skywalker Sound. The number of artists who participated to this project is quite significant. We can mention the mixer Chris Burden, Mark Taylor, Will Miller, sound designer and supervising editor James E. Mather, and Mark Weingarten, who will manage the sound recording during the flight using, among other things, the pilot's mask. So indeed we could have expected a debauchery of objects that whirl in all directions, and at this level it's quite limited, but I think they played the card of realism for lack of pure demo. Some may find it timid, personally to me it's like the grading, impressive and real. The two Atmos mixes are obviously identical. Note that on the introduction scene has circular effects in the French track and not in the English track. All the channels are solicited during the film. In this scene of the game on the beach, we can see that the two free objects move in all directions. The objects are used most of the time in a static way to reinforce atmospheres. Indeed, the ceiling is often used to place the music above our heads. Like in this scene in the bar, we are enveloped by the atmosphere, as if we could sing with them. Everything seems so real, especially the sequence where Maverick performs the test mission. The work on the sound editing, the rendering of the breathing is just breathtaking. And finally, the dogfight will make your subwoofer shake several times, and the bullets will rock in your ears. This is total immersion. I have only one thing to say, this is a must-have. Image and sound are simply insane. The extra, even if they are instructive, are still too superficial for a film of this caliber. We would like to see so much more about the shooting, the visual effects, the music. Apart from the quality of the image in the MIUI, the disc is the ultimate proof that for the moment the physical media is far superior to what you can find on the platforms. Thank you for following this test, and thank you very much to the Trinnov team, and especially to Christophe Menon for making possible this audio section that was missing in my analysis. Take care of yourself, and see you soon.